A bit of twains today. Yes, indeed, Andrew. How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the stream. Cap says, I purchased West Somerset and was very disappointed. Have not played or purchased anything else from Dovetail Games. In fact, you have deleted the game. Wow. Yeah, I really can understand that, Cap. I don't want to get sidetracked, but let me just say that if you were going to release something that had a steam train attached to it, wouldn't the West Somerset Railway be the ideal opportunity to do that? Bearing in mind that 90% of the trains that run on that line are steam. Coming back to Amma's statement that Matt, by whom you mean Matt Pedalston, has very clearly stated that the reason steam trains haven't been released is because it's proving so difficult to scale the difficulty. Steam works fine, it's the stupidly difficult for the majority of users to drive them. You see, now the problem I have with that, Amarilon, is that this is a simulator. It says it in the title, and I will be honest, and this is, I'm going to blame this entirely on Farm Sim, but I'm starting to get a little bit wound up by the number of games being released with the word simulator in it, when clearly it's not a simulator. Now this is kind of, Train Sim World for me is on the cusp. I mean, there's a lot of simulated elements about it, but it's not full-on, full-blown simulator. But if they were to release a steam train that was full-on, full-blown simulator, people would be very happy. I'm pretty sure they would be. And the people who can't figure out how to play it, do you know what I mean? They'll appreciate the complexity of a steam train, rather than just thinking it's a really easy thing. So I don't really see any downsides to that, to be fair. Yeah, exactly, Cap. I did make a mistake when I bought the Somerset Railway DLC, because I just assumed, having been on it myself many times, that it would have a steam train in it. So I was so excited I bought it without thinking, and then was massively deflated when I realised that there was no steam train at all, or even the hint that a steam train would follow in the future. Andrew says, I bought all but the last one DLC for this. They have yet to implement multiplayer too. I'm going to discuss that. No third-party routes enabled yet. I'm going to discuss that as well. Yeah, true. Amiron, it never claimed to have steam in it. So what steam trains did you buy for it? I'm sorry, but not reading the product description isn't the developer's fault. That said, I agree they shouldn't have done that particular route without steam. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, absolutely. Not reading the description was entirely my fault. But when you release a steam train line without steam trains on it, that kind of thing is going to happen. I have to be really careful what I say here, because one other thing I loathe about Dovetail Games is their policy of silence regarding, well, everything. I tell you what, guys, I could take your comments and compare it with the notes that I've made about what I want to discuss, and we're almost like for like, hitting everything on the nail here. No squeaky window, instant fail. Proper British rain, yeah, in Germany, but whatever. Sure, the top right corner one isn't the next upcoming speed limit. Yeah, it could be actually. I do make that mistake a lot. You're probably right there, Am. Shame they haven't implemented track IR. Yes, again, see, that's on my list of things to discuss. Simulator is on a console, so that's one issue. Again, that's, yes. And finally, problem is, it's only us, the more hardcore people, who would like it, and we're a fraction of the community. Well, you know, you say that, but we are the dedicated few, if you understand what I mean. So, let's say, for example, my daughter's boyfriend, in his early 20s, young man, bit of a lad, rah. He has a PS4, but he bought Farm Sim, and possibly even Train Sim as well. But he definitely bought Farm Sim. Now that's not something I would ever expect him to play, but he bought it and he plays it and he enjoys it a bit, and but he's not hardcore into it. If there was a DLC or an edition that came out or whatever, he wouldn't buy that because he's not hardcore into it. And it's the hardcore fans, I think, who will time after time invest and stay with it and keep promoting it and putting it up on YouTube and discussing the benefits of it. Yeah, and that's also a good point, Andrew. Doubt we're a fraction. The forums are full of it. They've definitely gone chasing the arcade people, haven't they? In terms of profit hunting. Right. Okay. I wasn't going to do it this early, but as soon as we're all kind of just talking about it already, anyway. These are my thoughts on Train Sim World and Dovetail Games at the moment. Now, some of this you've already highlighted and mentioned, so just bear with me. But there's no multiplayer, okay? And this was promised with the CSX Heavy Haul over a year ago now, whenever it came out. There's no head tracking, and I'm not even sure that's ever going to happen. And one of the best things about Train Sim was, and I think I made a video on it, was driving a steam train and having the ability to just lean my head out the window and see what was coming. As soon as I got Train Sim World, that was the first thing I noticed that was missing that I really wanted to see. As soon as you hit a console, it will go arcade. Yeah, I agree with that, Andrew. Amarilon says, it's a fact, unfortunately. It's no different than the Flight Sim World. I'm not sure what I can say or can't say regarding it, but the Vocal are a minority of sales. They sell most copies to people who are game players, not sim users. Yeah, it was promised at release and Matt said it was on the way. Absolutely. I don't agree with you there, Marilyn. Flight Sim World was instantly picked up by hardcore sim fans, and we were excited about the possibilities of what they could do with the game. Basically, it was like someone had picked up FSX and they were going to bring it up to modern standards. Now, to be fair, some of what they did I thought was absolutely spectacular, but the business principles behind what they were doing, what was leading the development, was totally wrong. They were focusing on all the wrong stuff, and when they brought out that DLC, the first DLC, for like 40-50 quid, that just turned so many people away. It's like, well, hang on a minute, you know, for example, the tutorials at the beginning were demanding that you come in and land at a certain speed for a certain aircraft, but they were inaccurate. So everybody was failing unless you were able to think outside the box and realise, well, you know, I shouldn't be going that fast at this point. Cap says, I agree with Amarillo, where Dovetail Games close people down where people voice their opinion. So how the hell are we to suggest better gaming and what's required? I don't know that Dovetail Game do that, Cap. I wouldn't necessarily agree that they do that. I certainly know that Matt Pedalston, who I know quite well, speak to him, I haven't spoken to him for a while, to be fair, I've been too busy, but you know, you can openly go and chat with him about anything Dovetail Games related that's currently available. You can't talk about stuff that's coming in the future, and that's obviously because, you know, he works for Dovetail Games and whatnot. But, you know, he's very open, he's very honest, he doesn't hide the fact that there's work to be done in certain areas and so on and so forth. I honestly think the team that work behind it are absolutely spot on. I think they're all enthusiastic about train sim and trains in general, and I think they genuinely want to make the best game they can. I just think there's somebody at Dovetail Games who's directing them in the wrong way. That's my opinion, that's my take on it, based on what I've seen and the fact that I've worked in the industry for like 15 years, and I know these arsehole people who will prioritise the wrong thing despite all the developers and all of the evidence indicating that that's a bad idea. They'll just do it anyway because they think they know best or whatever. They discontinued that too early, Flight Sim World. Yeah, I think they did too. I think, like I say, there was a hell of a lot that was good about it, and as much as at one point I was working with Dovetail Games on sort of development, making reviews and giving feedback and stuff, but I didn't like their approach or their attitude, so I pulled out. And even though I did that, I still wanted it to be a success, and I was quite disappointed when they pulled out eventually. I'm going to discuss that a bit more. Okay, so what have we discussed so far? There's no multiplayer, that was promised at the beginning. There's no head tracking, that's ridiculous. There's no controller support. Okay, now when the game first came out, I made my review and I kicked off royally about the fact that there was no button configuration options, no controller options, nothing at all for a game that was released, you know, back when that was released, a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And, you know, they did listen and they did implement keyboard binding alterations so you can set up your own key binding. So that was something. But a year and a half later, to still not have controller support. Now, okay, I admit the Xbox 360 controller or the PS4 controller can be used in the game, and that's clearly what they've been focusing on. But that's not the kind of controller I'm talking about. That's not really, you know, what a hardcore sim fan wants to be using. Matt Pedalston is really quite taken with it. He thinks it's really comfortable to use, and you know, I've tried it a few times and it is okay, but it just, I don't know, it just feels wrong to me. This isn't really a conversation I can have on a sim chat when I'm playing on an iPad, unfortunately. The hardcore simmers hated Flight Sim World simply because they were working on how sims were funded 15 years ago rather than the cost and complexity of a modern system. No, see, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, Amarillo. I don't think Dovetail Games were working on the things that needed to be worked on first. And they're classic for that. They've done it in Train Sim, they do it in Train Sim World. It's like there's stuff that could be, you know, small little irritating bugs and issues that could be ironed out and fixed. But rather than doing that, they prioritise getting the next DLC out and making a bit more profit before fixing the issues that everyone sort of had enough with. You can't understand why Dovetail Games didn't continue just Train Simulator. Why make Train Sim World when they were doing so well with the original? All they needed to do was upgrade the engine rather than make a whole new game. Well, I think, Cap, if you look at the information provided by Dovetail Games, this is a game driven by passion, okay? And being able to walk around the train and, you know, look at it from any perspective, that's what train sim enthusiasts do. They go and they physically look at trains. They look at how it's engineered, how it's put together, how it's all coupled together, you know, the variances between different models, etc. They want to be able to see and look at that. It needs to be a tangible thing, and that's what they were driving for. That's why they went for this. And I, you know, hand on heart, I think they've done a fantastic job, but I do feel like they're going to cause themselves a lot of negative press and a lot of unhappy people. A lot of people are not buying the DLC because, you know, where is all this stuff they promised? It's been a long time. It's not coming, is it? Hey Scotty, how you doing, buddy? Yep, trains today. Super Strike, hello buddy. I'm good. We are good. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. They work on the DLC before everything, including major patches like the release, had issues. And as Amarillon mentioned earlier, they're bloody quiet as well, aren't they? They don't openly say, oh, wow, we made a big boo-boo in this area. We are going to fix that by this date, and we'll keep you updated on how that progress is going. And if it gets delayed or we decide, actually, we're not going to fix it, then we'll tell you about that. But they're not very vocal in that sense, I find. You're not saying they haven't done a good job, you're just saying, why couldn't they incorporate that into the previous game? Agreed. Yeah, the old engine was toss. Even with the 64-bit version of Train Sim, the limits are already being passed. Yeah, it's just not capable. Super Strike, have you given up on Elite Dangerous yet? I haven't played it in weeks, been trying to complete Red Dead Redemption 2. No, I absolutely haven't given up on Elite Dangerous yet. I am just so busy. You missed the noob loops. Oh, there'll be plenty more of those. So, based on what I'm seeing from Dovetail Games at the moment, I am seriously concerned that Dovetail Games as a company are in crisis. Okay, now just bear with me as I lay this out and then let me know what you think, right? Flight Sim World, as we all know, was cancelled last year. I cannot recall the last time that Dovetail Games didn't have a sale on Train Sim or Train Sim World. This is the longest, I'd say the longest ongoing sale that I think Dovetail Games have ever had at all. And FSX Steam, of course. It's the longest ongoing sale they've ever had. And what they seem to do is they just rename the sale and put different things up for sale, but it just continues one from the other to the next. I don't know if this is a new business model approach or whether they are in a situation where they need to generate a lot of income quickly, and this is the only way they can think of doing it. Perhaps their existing business model is just collapsing around them. Perhaps the fact that they've been focusing so hard on console players and transporting Train Sim World over to console, and kind of, forgive me for saying, ignoring their original player base, hasn't really paid off as much as they thought it would. What do you think? Am I right? If Dovetail Games are in trouble, then personally, this is what I think, they ought to build a route like a DLC which actually extends one of the existing DLCs, rather than all these individual, totally unique mismatch combinations that they're pulling out at the moment. Why not just extend something that somebody's already got? Because if you've got this DLC and they release another one that extends this even further, you're almost certainly going to buy it. I mean, almost certainly. And to be honest with you, if they did do that, they wouldn't need to produce any more locomotives. Do you know what I mean? Because we've already got a fairly decent selection of locos, I think. The only thing they really need to do is allow us to put any locomotive onto any route. I'd be quite happy if they released extra wagons or carriages or whatever, but if they just built an expansion to an existing DLC route, everybody would buy that. Maybe they could even bring the price down a little bit because they're not having to develop a very complex train locomotive as well. I'd like to see them focus their time on controller support, and I don't mean console controllers, I mean proper, rail driver, steering wheels, I don't know, Cytec side panels, all that kind of stuff. Anything you want, really. Have multiple joysticks on the go. Stuff like that. Why in this day and age can't they implement that? Especially when they're using the Unreal Engine 4, which is kind of half got that baked in as it is. And obviously a steam locomotive, I think, would absolutely just release the pressure, if you forgive the pun, on everything that's building up with Dovetail Games at the moment. Amarillo says, regarding patches, yes, you agree entirely, but again, you have to be careful because you do have links, formal and informal, to Dovetail Games. I understand that, I appreciate that. So, a lot of things that you can't actually say. Yeah, that's understandable. I totally respect that. Scotty says, I think they realise that no one buys Train Sim DLCs at full price. Yeah, well, exactly. They're massively overpriced. If you compare this DLC to like a Flight Sim DLC, where every single switch and component in the aircraft is modelled and behaves as it should in the real aircraft, that is a high level detailed simulation DLC, and people pay the money for that because they want that high level of simulation. That doesn't exist in Train Sim World. It's far more limited. There's an awful lot of buttons and switches here that not only do not do anything, but they don't even switch. They're not even modelled properly. Super Strike says, yes, of course they are. Of course they are. Have you seen what happened when they were no longer working on FSX Steam Edition every day before they announced them stopping the development? They were just trying to grab people's money. It was a joke. You don't see any other flight sim developers constantly saying, you have to buy our products. Dovetail was a joke for the flight sim community, which I have been a member of for years. Lockheed Martin have guided a steady and stable future for P3D rant is now over. When Flight Sim World was announced, and I forget the guy's name, the lead developer, or not the lead developer, the lead, the project lead, I forget his name, sorry. When he stood up and announced it, and then proceeded to say, I don't know anything about flight sims or aeroplanes, I just sort of curled up inside and thought, oh my god, this is going to be a disaster. I mean, in his defence, he went and got himself a pilot's licence. He tried to listen to the community, which he said he was going to do, and they released all of these questionnaires saying what is most important to you in Flight Sim World, what would you like to see most, so that we can get things prioritised. And I don't know if my answers were totally different to everybody else's, but they certainly didn't follow my list, that's for damn sure. They kind of went off on their own little tangent and just started doing stuff that nobody was expecting to see that early on and really cared about. Get the planes working properly, get it accurate, and then move on to like DLCs and weather and stuff like that. I just feel like they went off in the wrong direction there a little bit. Part of it is that each new route is bringing in new components to the core sim. If they go back and put that into a previous route, they won't get anywhere near the income that they will from a new route. Right, there you go. Super Strike says, sorry, I had to say something. That's fine, mate, absolutely no problem. I think you're in good company here. There's a lot of things that Dovetail Games have done to probably everybody in chat that we really don't appreciate, I'll be quite honest to say. That's not true, sorry, they are not allowed to make FSX. The license was to make a new sim. I've been involved with the flight sim world as a user, a developer, and from a press perspective since 1994. The other thing you need to remember with flight sim world was that there were 2 whole DLCs done by Dovetail Games, yeah. But there were a lot of small issues with that they just wouldn't fix at the beginning. Yep, I see your point, but a massive developer for the flight sim community is PMDG. They spent on average 6 years on a single aircraft. The biggest seller was the Boeing 777, 737, 747. Each individual plane was worked on for 6 to 7 years. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, how you doing, bro? All good, I hope. Amarillon, I know what you mean, but it winds me up. Yeah, it does. It winds everybody up. Buy third parties should be on the end there. Right, now, yes, let's continue with my mini rant here. So yeah, I've said I'd really want them to focus on controller support, build routes which extend upon existing DLCs, don't build and release more locos, focus on expanding what we've got, and a steam locomotive. Stop holding back on it, focus your energy into this. Everybody wants this, and I've got to say, and this isn't necessarily directed at anybody, but just as an overall, every time I make a review and highlight Dovetail Games failings, or Train Sim World failings specifically, I do seem to get a bunch of die-hard Dovetail Games sympathisers who decide to give me loads of grief. So if you're one of those people who keep giving me grief about when I pull Dovetail Games up on their failings, then just answer me this question with reasonable evidence that justifies their behaviour, okay? Since they released the title with CSX Heavy Haul, they promised a bunch of features that are coming and acknowledged that some should be added, like controller support, etc., multiplayer, passenger information systems, head tracking, third-party scenarios and editors, for example. And then instead of producing any of that, with exception for PIS, which I believe is in this DLC now, they actually release an additional £143 of additional DLC before even one of those features has been delivered. How do you justify that? How do you justify that? They entice you in, they say, listen, we know this is missing these features, but they're coming. Don't worry, give us your money now, and we'll work on developing all this stuff. Now, admittedly, they did say they'd bring it out on Xbox as well, and they did. Took them a while, and it's out on PS4 now as well, and I think they thought that was going to be their money spinner. But, which is what concerns everybody, it seems like they've dumbed down the game. They have no intention of making it more realistic, and if what Amarillon is saying, that the complexity of the steam engine is too high and they can't work out how to reduce the complexity, then why is this game called Sim? Why is it called Train Sim World? I don't understand. It's kind of counterproductive. And yes, Dovetail Games' aura of silence, exactly that. It's all money motivated, Cap, I agree with that, but Dovetail Games are a business. I don't have a problem with them chasing money. I do have a problem with them promising something, not delivering it, not highlighting where they are with that development, not indicating whether they're still working on it, how long they think it's going to take to materialise. The route and scenario builder seems like it's getting close at least. Well, yeah, that would be something. That really would be something. It's not like, you know, I'm not sort of trying to slam the game. I think this just, I mean, God, the locomotives look so good, do they not? I mean, that rain looks shockingly bad. Just look at it, it looks terrible. But the rain effect on the windscreen looks okay. I wouldn't say it was as good as it was in Flight Sim World, but yeah, I mean, it looks okay. There's a hell of a lot that's good, and by a long way, this is definitely the best train simulator available on the market today. It's just, where is all this stuff they promised? Where is the development? Where are the improvements? I've got to say, the audio in this loco sounds so damn good, but if they fix the engine, then surely that should be applied across the board to all previous DLCs. You know what I mean? Especially when they're saying, oh, we'll improve this. Don't worry, buy it now, give us your money, and we'll make it better. Well, okay, I gave you my money, and rather than you making it better, you made a DLC that I don't own better. Where's the logic in that? Where's the honesty and the clarity in that decision? Cap says, and this is just one reason why I no longer follow Dovetail Games or will purchase any more of their games. Yeah, I totally can understand where you're coming from there. The problem is management level, says Amarilon, not developer level. 100%, I don't direct any of this at the developers. The developers are so skilled. What they've produced is absolutely mind-boggling. I am so impressed. It is definitely management decisions that are causing the friction, I think. You also suspect, personal opinion, nothing you can evidence, that I'm right about them being in trouble. Ah, interesting. You suspect that the train sim and fishing team are basically being pushed very hard indeed to recover all the money they lost. Yep. Especially fishing. That's really hasn't gone down well. Again, user feedback, and they totally ignore it and just start bringing out DLC after DLC. That's not going to work. Hey, Simfan. Promising stuff but never delivering it to the people that bought the game and the community is not logical. Exactly right. I mean, how long are people gonna take that kind of abuse? That's what's bothering me. Super Strike says, I have Train Sim World on Xbox. It's good and a fun, chilled out game, but they need to work on optimization for the game. Heavy frame drops and long loading times. It takes the same amount of time to make a coffee and a bacon sandwich. Bloody hell. Really? I don't have Xbox, so I've not experienced that, but wow. And that's before you're in the game. Holy cow. Aaron says, the thing with Steam, I guess, is has been said, it's much more complicated, and finding a way to implement it into a new engine must take a while. But you have seen barely any updates or information on progress on Steam, even though they said they have been working on it. Exactly. I mean, Matt Pedalstone is 125 million% behind. They're definitely going to be a Steam train in Train Sim World. And I think when that comes out, everybody's going to buy it. Even those people who have had enough. Because that's what we're all really waiting for. That's what we've all been waiting for since the beginning, I think. Exactly. Why ask for feedback if you never listen to the community? Exactly right. It's crazy, but it's a great game to play. That's the thing, you know what I mean? It's not a bad game. It's just that the price tags are very high. There's lots of DLC that's been released, and it's like, yeah, great. Where are all these features? Why can't I use a controller on this game? It's 2019, for God's sake. Where's the controller support? Who is deciding that being able to use a controller on this game is not a priority, but a DLC in Germany is? I mean, a second DLC in Germany is. It's crazy. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks this, by the way, because normally when I make these reviews, it's just me sat here ranting away, and I think, oh God, do you know what? Am I completely on the wrong platform here, or what's going on? But yeah, I'm glad that I haven't gone completely bloody mental. Not yet, anyway. Amarilon, they should never have got into the flight sim market. The maths never added up, and the PMDG-led consortium would never have worked either. It was a complete pipe dream and would have fallen apart in seconds, but Dovetail Games were completely the wrong people to try and do that. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that the possibility of a continuation of FSX, like taking the core elements of FSX and making it into something better, was incredibly exciting for so many people. To be fair, they announced that at the same time as X-Plane 11, and X-Plane 11 has just completely dwarfed them since day one, and I don't think they ever recovered from that. In 2019, a game without multiplayer is like trying to sunbathe without enjoying the sun. Yeah, exactly. It's almost unheard of, isn't it? I mean, there are more games now that are multiplayer only and have no single player element. Oh, of course, Scotty. Yeah, third DLC, Rapid Transit. I forgot all about Rapid Transit. Rapid Transit with their rather dodgy PCB, which I think was rebuilt for RSN, if I remember correctly. See, there's another thing. I'm not sure if that ever got transported over. I never really encountered those problems particularly myself because I'm not that hardcore, but yeah, I'm definitely not the only one. Part of a large group of railway enthusiasts, and we're all getting kind of sick of their stuff, yeah. But the thing is, Aaron, I mean, where's the alternative? There's a couple of little companies that have popped up, but you know, they're not in the same ballpark as Train Sim World. Train Sim World kind of almost have the monopoly, I'd say. There's no stopping them. They can almost do what they like. Yeah, can we play the game now and been ranting for an hour? You're quite right. In fact, it's that PMDG consortium was doomed to fail, unfortunately. Most of the people in it couldn't agree on how to say each other's names, let alone how to run and develop a sim. Yeah, good point. You know, you're fantasizing or daydreaming, but how cool would it be for a train simulator game to be like ETS2? I mean, to have a train simulator that covers the whole of Europe. Well, yeah, sim fan. That's what I'm saying. If they stop building DLCs and adding new locos, just extend the DLC we've already got. Extend the route, because 50 kilometers is not long. If you extended that and it was 100 kilometers and then 150 and then 200, that would get people excited, I think. Yeah, rant's over. Okay. How would you implement multiplayer? Good question, Amarilon. Yeah, where's Scotland? Scotland for Train Sim was one of their best sellers as well. One of their highest rated. Was that a third party thing though? Was that third party? I forget. Anyway, right, let's get on with the next tutorial. Sorry. I did try and hold off that rant as long as possible, but you guys were all kind of highlighting everything I wanted to say anyway, so I thought I'd just get it out of the way. I feel much better now. We're all cleansed.